Welcome again to the Jett Watts show. Today we have
Again?
my dear friend, Duvessa Murphy. She is our dedicated historian, uh, and today we will be talking about a dear king that we all should know about. Uh, let's begin with who is the guy that we will be talking about today?
So King Baldwin IV was a late 12th century medieval king. He was the king of the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem. He's well known for being not just the king of Jerusalem, but being a boy king. So he was 13 years old when he was made king, and he was out of the regency of the Count of Tripoli when he was 15. So he was an active ruler at around age 15. And he was afflicted with leprosy, and it became worse as he got older, and he died shy of his 24th birthday.
Wow, that man definitely did have a short lifespan, but he began very young. How
Yeah,
young, in fact?
13.
13. All right.
No, I guess
Um,
he began life at conception.
well,
I
uh,
suppose I suppose he got
that's not essentially my question, but
it's not essential.
that's good to know. This is one of the few people where his life actually begins at conception. Can you believe it? It's almost like it should be an innate quality about human life.
Almost. It's almost like that, Jett.
Almost. Who knows? God, definitely. So what are some of his great achievements?
Mm-hmm. So King Baldwin IV is mostly well known for having a pretty stable rule, despite being a king during the time of the Crusade. So, like, kind of constant attack from external forces and internal strife. And he navigated that all pretty well. Um, and he died like 1184. Uh, coming to 1180 is when his illness got the worst of him. But up till 1180, from the time he was 13 years old, and he was born in like 1161. So 1174, I guess, to 1184, he had a pretty stable rule, which was impressive.
Interesting.
But there are no unique policies about King Baldwin IV's reign. It's more like his character that makes him shine.
So, did he fight at any battles, or was he strictly just a king that ruled?
He was not I doubt he ever like fought hand to hand a lot of like conflict of that sort, because he would have been very ill, violently so, for the last few years of his reign. Kind of like with puberty came the worst of his leprosy, but he was out there with with his soldiers, so they would like carry him on a hammock out to war or a
Interesting.
stretcher if
Wow.
he was that sick. Yeah.
Uh, Now, in terms of leprosy, um, which is a type of disease that we don't have very common in America, if not at all. Uh, what is leprosy, so that everyone may be able to understand.
Right. Um, Leprosy is a disease caused by bacteria. Uh, its natural carriers can be animals, like today. I think in South America, leprosy is caused by armadillos. So don't go ahead petting them if you ever see any. But leprosy is a bacterial disease, and it's pretty hard to spread. Um, you can make physical contact with someone that has leprosy, but you most likely won't get it. And it looks like rotting, caving in flesh.
I see. So it's the body deteriorating because of a severe infection.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's one of the worst infections that you'll ever have that is very hard to get rid of.
One moment, Jett. I actually have, I think I can find for you the kind of leprosy King Baldwin IV has.
I see. That
There
would
were
be great information to know.
there were two types of leprosy. And I have an old document on that. Doobie doo bop bop, the doobie doo bop. Yeah, he suffered from leprotomus leprosy. And the specific bacterium which causes leprosy is Mycobacterium leprae. So there are two types of leprosy, tuberculoid and leprotomus. Tuberculoid will give you irritated red skin and a lack of sensitivity within the skin. And leprotomus does not stop with the skin, but it goes into your eyes, nose, testicles, and bones. It spreads all over the body. So it's much worse.
I see. So which one did he have?
He had leprotomus.
I see. It doesn't sound fun.
No.
Not at all. I wouldn't want my flesh to be caving in anyway. So
Well, I think it's really interesting. It's almost poetic. Like he's their leader of a Catholic nation, so a deeply religious nation, which is embroiled in holy conflict. But he has this disease that has like negative biblical connotations. And well, he's also a leader of a great, um, deeply religious state. It's interesting.
so he was Catholic?
He was Catholic. They would have been Catholic people who spoke Old French, and they would have had like a loose affiliation with the Byzantine Empire, which was Greek Orthodox. So that's pretty cool. I kind of like to think of the Crusader states as old-fashioned America, because they're very like blended. They have a lot of immigrants. They're kind of just like
French, though. That I didn't expect to hear that.
yeah. Well, you think what did the Pilgrims think when they came to America? They're like, we're gonna have a new Jerusalem. And part of that is that they did not like the Anglican Church. They wanted to purify it of what they thought were remnants of Roman Catholicism. That's why they were called Puritans by their critics. These like Anglican worshippers who wanted to have further reforms in the Anglican Church, and because they couldn't change it, part of their reason to set out into new land was to have worship services, to have worship that they could agree with. They were originally in Holland, but they saw their children's British identity being compromised. So then they were like, okay, we need to really start from scratch. And they continued looking. until finally they were in the land which is America, and they called it the New Jerusalem. And I think a similar idea is kind of just in these Western Europeans taking Jerusalem for their own. Yes, it was kind of a fight for right to pilgrimage, and kind of a fight against what they would have perceived as the attacks of Islam on the Holy Land. But it was also at the same time, I think, trying to create a new, deeply religious nation. Yes, they came from religious nations, but this was something new and exciting, kind of a new frontier and a new Christian frontier. And it was composed of a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds who believed in this same dream. And I guess in that sense, it differs from America, because the later pilgrims to come did not, the later immigrants to come were not necessarily like-minded with the pilgrims. But I feel there's a connection there.
I see. So what happened to these people? Are they still around today? And where are they?
So the people who were involved in the Crusades. So the Crusades, Jett, were holy wars, kind of. So Europeans used to pilgrimage to the Holy Land in the Middle East, but they came into conflict with Islamic forces. And at the same time, they also just wanted that land solely to themselves for Christian interest. So they started going out and taking back, well, not necessarily taking back, because it's not like the Zionist states, like Zionism in the modern day. It's not like Jewish people from Europe moving in to what the United Nations would call Palestine. It was actually Western European people going into the Middle East and reclaiming these. Oh, that's an interesting glitch. Are you seeing that too, Jett?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fine now on my side as well. I think your computer was bugging out for a moment.
Yeah, my computer was getting excited because this is interesting.
Quite.
So these European immigrants would go into the Middle East. They'd fight and they take back, or really take for Christian Western European interest, these kingdoms, and they set up a new dynasties. And because these kingdoms were constantly under attack, there was always political instability in the Crusader kingdoms. So, but what is interesting, because these are kind of underdog, like very rookie new kingdoms that have no immediate ethnic connection to the Middle East. Like, these are just foreigners with a religion that is Jewish in nature, coming back into I suppose I shouldn't say Middle East, but Near East, So like Jerusalem, like Damascus, and such places, they would be fighting with Islam in many, many different wars they called crusades.
Now, I'm going to bring us back to the Deer King, but before that, how many crusades were there, and let's just ask that. How many crusades were there, just roughly?
Mm-hmm. So I think King Baldwin's timeline was around the Third Crusade, Fourth Crusade. I can double check that right now. Third Crusade date. Yeah, the Third Crusade was 1187 to 1192. The Third Crusade would have taken place pretty soon after he died, like 3 years after. And I don't believe that in his lifetime he was directly related to any official crusade. But as for how many crusades there were, I'm more of an expert on like King Baldwin IV's timeline than the crusades. My guess would be 10 crusades, but let's check that. Let's check that guess. Do you have any guesses, Jett?
Let's see. The time that he lived was 11, right? Well, 1100, just about around that time.
In late 12th century, so the 1100s, like 1161 to 1184.
All right, let's see. So the last battle that he fought in, or what? What's the question?
How many crusades there are? So I just found the answer from my old friend Britannica, which is mostly reliable.
You already mentioned that he was in the Third Crusade, I believe.
That the Third Crusade was the crusade closest to his timeline.
I'd say 4 to 6, I believe.
That's a pretty good guess. It's 8 crusades.
Okay, 8. Yeah, I was thinking 6, maybe a little bit above 6, but I'm not sure, so I went down to 4.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning. All right, let's go back to dear King Baldwin IV, I believe was his name. Now, how did he get into power? That's a simple question.
Yeah. So King Baldwin IV was named king at age 13 after his father died.
So it's a lineage of king.
Yeah, by lineage. And it was really interesting because his mother was exiled at the time. The High Court had basically gotten them to have a medieval divorce on claims of consanguinity, which is basically fancy talk for they had two close immediate ancestors, Baldwin's mother and father, that is. So it was practically incest. A fun fact, I was trying to mention this earlier, but because this is such a new because this is such a new European dynasty, they're actually very closely related to the French dynasty. And King Baldwin IV's mother was of French lineage. I believe the Avignon family, but we could check that later. So King Baldwin IV's mother and father were divorced on order of the High Court. King Baldwin IV's father was remarried. So Baldwin, at the age of 13, has 2 sisters. One sister is Sibylle by his mother, and the other sister is by the emperor, by the second wife. And she's not incredibly relevant to King Baldwin IV's life.
Now, I got 2 more questions left. The first question should be fairly easy. Was there a pope back then, and what was his relation with the pope?
Yeah, there would have been a pope back then. The pope is related to Crusader history. I mean, obviously, because
the Crusades are based off of religious reasons, and the Pope is the main guide in terms of religious guiding.
Yeah, but if you read, there's one only one King Baldwin IV biography. Many articles written about him, but only one by official biography by Bernard Hamilton. The Pope is a pretty insignificant figure. There is The Templars by Dan Jones, and the Pope is kind of related to the fall of the Knights Templar.
Oh, that's a
And
shame.
not so much. Um, he's indirectly related, and he
Okay.
has some affiliation to the French king, who is the direct cause of the Templars' demise.
Oh,
Mm,
that
but
kind of makes sense. Now, all right, last question. Um, and my question is a fairly simple one. What would he say to us to learn from what he has done? Or what point do you think we should take from it? What should we learn from this dear king of a past age?
mhm. I think the main thing you can learn from King Baldwin IV is that you can't have excuses in life. Like, um, he had leprosy. He was violently ill, but he took up his duty as king to lead a nation constantly under existential threat. And he navigated internal politics with like sisters and even a former regent who may have had politics that were not necessarily aligned with him.
All right.
I mhm.
Uh, a- any last words before we end this segment of our dear podcast?
mm, Probably to just research and read with enthusiasm about history. Not just because, in fun fact, King Baldwin IV, one of his favorite subjects were history, according to the records we have of William of Tyre, the palace scribe, or not so much the palace scribes, but the king's scribe.
Uh, I I I really like this. The one of our dear historians' favorite kings is also a enjoyer of history as well.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Um, yeah, William of Tyre is also an interesting player in these current politics. He was adamantly against King Baldwin IV's biological mother. He was not um, because he kind of prevented him from getting a promotion um, in palace politics. I don't think scribe is the best word. He had an official position that was of importance, but we just have a lot of written documents from him um, from that time period.
I
We
see.
also have one of the most detailed accounts of King Baldwin IV's life is or just like of that time period, including King Baldwin's the first life, is called the Chronicle. And it would be an interesting primary source to read. Footnote: it would be very biased because the sponsor was King Baldwin IV's stepmother, so she's it's going to take some views which are um, hostile to Baldwin's immediate biological family.
What can you do? That's history for you. If you have two different sources about the same topic, then of course one of them's going to be from one view, and the other one's going to be from another view, and maybe they may contradict each other, but that's how you learn. Uh, all right. Well, that'll be the end of this portion of our podcast. Uh, please continue on one of our other videos, and I hope you have a nice day. Duvessa, please say goodbye as well.
Thank you, and go forth and research and study enthusiastically.
All right. Have a nice day, folks.